Hello everyone, this is John from RPGs and More, and in today's episode I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I've read in when I've been reading through, sorry I'm stumbling today, I've been reading through the OD&D booklets, the printout that I made a while ago, I talked about earlier. This is the original Dungeons & Dragons released in 1974, and I have been kind of rereading some of those old rules, not because I enjoy them. They are a complete game. They are fun. But okay, so what got my attention today? Let's stay on topic. Traps got my attention the other day when I was reading this, and I wanted to talk about it today. Now, specifically, we're looking at page 9 of The Underworld and Wilderness Adventures, which is book 3, I believe. Yes, book 3 of the original trilogy. And on that page, there's a little statement, kind of just separated out from the middle of the text of everything else, that it stands out a little bit. I'll read that to you. What it says is, traps are usually sprung by a roll of a 1 or a 2 when any character passes over or by them. Pits will open in the same manner. So, now, why did this stand out to me? Doesn't seem like that big of a deal, does it? I mean, realistically, it's not. But it's an implication. The implication here is that a trap is not automatically sprung just because a character walked on it. Huh. A trap is not automatically sprung just because something of significant weight was pressed on it. Okay? That if we randomize when a trap is sprung, then it means that we cannot depend upon that trap. We cannot depend upon it to do something. And it adds a layer of uncertainty to that trap. Now, let's have the standard pit trap, okay? 5 feet wide, between 5 to 10 feet deep, and roughly square in shape. Covers an entire corridor, okay? Standard pit trap. Party comes along, party fighter, party rogue who's searching for traps, does not succeed in their role, walk over it, DM quietly rolls a d6. Ba-doop. Okay, well at that point the DM should be rolling the rogue's search for traps die anyway, so just rolling more dice is not, it should kind of slip under the radar a little bit. Might start getting the player's attention though when the fighter walks past that area and rolled again. Cleric walks, roll again. Wizard, roll again. Second fighter, roll again. And you keep rolling, and they're going to wonder what's going on. It's going to increase uncertainty at the table. Now, you know that there's a reason for this uncertainty. You know that there is a trap here. Now, this trap might be just a standard trap, or maybe at the bottom of this 10-foot deep pit trap we've been talking about, maybe there's a secret passage that could then potentially lead off to another area of the dungeon, or a treasure that was being safeguarded at the bottom of this pit trap, or a monster that periodically comes in and cleans out the pit trap because the pit trap is actually their means of getting food. It can lead to all sorts of things. So the pit trap doesn't have to just be a pit trap. It doesn't have to be a tax on the players. It's part of the adventure. All right, and that's not anything that's like new, by the way. If you look at the sample dungeon that's in book 3, they include that element in the sample dungeon of a pit trap with a secret passage that leads somewhere else. So from the beginning, traps in general were meant to be part of the story, part of the adventure, part of the setting, not just a tax on, well, you didn't check, so you fall and you lose hit points. Like, no, let's make it more interesting than that. Okay? All right. So that randomization, that uncertainty about the traps, it does some interesting things to the adventure. One, it ramps up, the player's nervousness. Like there's something up with this corridor, they don't know what it is. They search for traps, didn't find any. They're probably going to want to search again, but like a good DM's gonna say, no, you already searched. Your thief searched and they didn't find anything. So, you can, and maybe after, like, maybe the next day they can search again, something like that. But at that point, his search is done. It's completed. Uh, Something's going on, but they don't know what it is because at that point they're metagaming. Anyway, um, but what it also does is it allows for a little bit more of a randomization of what's going on. The one of the things that they recommend is making your dungeons evolving so that they change every time the players go down. This has to do with the idea that the dungeon is like for every day that passes in our world between game sessions, a day has passed in the dungeon, and monsters have the ability to move around. Alliances are formed, alliances are dropped, uh, stuff like that. And that's a topic for another video if you want to talk about a West Marches style dungeon crawl. I mean, that's another thing we can go into, which I think is a fascinating idea. But having slightly randomized traps also kind of flows into that idea, where since the trap isn't guaranteed, and maybe they never sprung it, well, then you can change it between now and between the end of this session, the beginning of the next one. Or maybe they did spring it, but they sprang it on their way back out of the dungeon, and that's finally when they discovered it. It allows for an opportunity for that stretch of corridor or that turn or wherever that trap was placed. It's still a point of concern. It's still a place where they need to pay attention, and that's good. Because if we're looking at old school dungeon crawl adventures, that's part of the goal is for people to be paying attention. It's not they're not wanting to get through this as quickly as possible to get to the next cool event. The coolness comes in the exploration, and part of the exploration is what is going on down this corridor and how can we figure it out. Not just I'm going to roll for traps, but I'm going to go in and I'm going to start tapping things. I'm going to start, checking seams and whatnot, and really getting into the description of things, because that's part of what makes finding a trap interesting, and that's why a trap should be part of the layout and not just a dice roll tax or a hit point tax, but a part of what's going on. Because then when you're searching for it, you're interacting with the dungeon itself, you're interacting with the environment, you're interacting with the trap, and you're doing so with description and not with, well, I check and I roll my dice and I'm done, or I'm not. That to me that doesn't feel right. And the more I look back on some of the OSR stuff, and the more I explore it, and the more I look back on the original, the old OD&D, I realized that that's really was kind of the goal. And it's been after that when things were added to the game to facilitate, I roll the dice to find out if I succeed or not kind of outcomes, that we ended up with this mindset of the dice are king or queen, and that description is superfluous. I don't really like that. And I think, in a way, as ironic as it is, putting the triggering of the trap to a dice roll on the game master's side, not on the player's side, adds an interesting element that might help encourage people to start exploring more. and start thinking more instead of, just reaching for the die the moment that an obstacle comes in. Say, well, how do I, instead thinking about it, thinking about the environment, especially when they know that stuff like that's going to come up. And you could even also make it interesting by rolling. If you know the party's going to pass that thing, you could probably roll up some dice ahead of time, so you've already got the numbers marked down of when that trap's going to go off. And so you just tick a number off every time a monster or a player character passes over that trap until the number that springs it is rolled. The other cool part about that is, since it is randomized, if the trap resets, you can spring it again randomly. And wouldn't that be fun? All right, so that's enough about that. This is just, it's just an interesting thought. I wanted to share it because I thought it was fun. I hope you enjoyed this slightly shorter ramble than usual. I hope it's shorter. We'll see when I look at how long this recording is. Peace be with you, and I hope you all have a wonderful night. Thank you for stopping by. Bye bye.